Welcome back. Then the next stock on our radar is Satin Credit. We have with us the chairman of the company, Mr. H.P. Singh, who joins us on the phone line. Well, Mr. Singh, before we talk about business, we understand that you've reduced, the pledge on your books by a large extent. Could you fill us in with the details? How much of a pledge reduction is there?
So in December 2018, our peak pledge of the promoters holding was close to about 53%,
Okay.
which has currently come down to about 23%. After repayments and getting our share pledge released. So there's been a reduction of close to about 25% in terms of our holding of pledge shares.
Okay. This 23% pledged outstanding, you intend to bring that down further? I mean, is this going to be an ongoing exercise for some time now?
Yes, this is going to be an ongoing exercise, so for us, practically every quarter we've been trying to bring it down in terms of our percentages. So hopefully this trend will continue in the near future also, till the time we don't get it down to zero.
And how long might that take, Mr. Singh?
I can't hazard a guess, but I think it's probably going to be sooner than expected.
Mr. Singh, the stock is quite excited because you're saying there's been a big pledge reduction on the promoter holding, and you're saying going ahead as well, that's what you're striving to do. I'm looking at the March disclosure. The promoter holding was roughly around 28%, and out of that, the total pledge out of that was 26%. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So how it is looked at is that overall of our total holding in the company, we were at about 53% in December. By March, we had brought it down to about 28% or so. Now it is down by another 5%, which is close to about 23%.
Okay, so the flash that is reading up there on the screen is that the promoter pledge has come down from around 53% in December. It's come down in March to around 28%, and now it's come down to around 23%. So the flash that is up for our viewers on the screen, that is over the last 6 months. It's not over the last 3 months or so. Just clarifying that out because the stock had taken off in the last few minutes.
Mr. Singh, one more question. The outstanding pledge now, what are the kind of instruments that you have the pledge on, and what is their tenure?
So it's just our equity shareholding which is being pledged. That was there earlier also, and that's the same which is being pledged. So as an instrument, it's our equity shares which we hold in the company.
Okay, let's talk about the liquidity situation then, Mr. Singh. Everyone's been talking about lack of liquidity in the markets. Everyone's struggling really, with this current liquidity crisis. Have you raised any sort of capital? If yes, at what rate have you raised it? And if you could just give us a sense, since you're joining us on such short notice, what is your current borrowings? If you could, break it up for us, how much of it comes in from banks?
So in terms of our raising, I think, this quarter still has been very good for us. Normally it doesn't happen in the first quarter of every start of the year, but this year has been good. We don't face any kind of liquidity crisis. Our bank, cash and bank balances are the same as what it was in March. March it was about 1,600 crores. We still carry about 1,600 crores in our books. In terms of banks which we've been able to raise, we've got sanctions coming in from a few banks. We've been able to do an assignment transaction with State Bank of India again this quarter for close to about 350 crores. We've got sanctions in hand from a couple of more banks which are there. We will end on a very healthy note this quarter also. So liquidity crisis for us as a matter of concern is absolutely not there.
Mr. Singh, this MSME segment that you have, although it's a very small chunk, at one point one thought that there was a lot of stress that was brewing there, but we now understand that there is possibly some sort of a lifeline in the offing that amongst other things, the RBI panel in MSMEs is recommended that loan limits could be enhanced, so on and so forth. You expect much more impetus to MSME? Do you expect more traction in this sector going ahead?
See, my sense is, MSME, forms a very important part of the complete ecosystem, sorry. So for us, we feel that, all that what is being endeavored by the government to help boost up this sector in terms of credit offtakes and everything is going to be a very positive thing, We still have a very small balance sheet, but in terms of getting sanctions also for this segment of ours, is also not being a problem. We're getting, traction in terms of the public sector banks also looking at this sector very favorably. We're also getting, private banks also to look at it very favorably. So my own sense is MSME sector as a whole is going to be, and we will be in an uptrend, in the near future.
Let's get to some numbers then. What sort of disbursement growth are you targeting for this year? How has it been in the first quarter? And you said you have no worries in terms of raising money. Your margins, your NIMs had compressed in the fourth quarter of the last fiscal. Where do you see that headed? Is the cost of borrowing going up?
No, the cost of borrowing is still stable, so I think, our NIMs have been stable. If you look at it, they have been spiked maybe in a quarter or so, but overall, if you look at the complete year as such, it's been stable, and this remains stable in the first quarter. I can only give you a small this thing that, for us, the growth which we actually targeted about 35 to 40% this year will still remains in that fold. I can't give you exact numbers in terms of year-on-year for this quarter, but it's going the same way.
So, and the NIMs numbers, 35 to 40% growth is what you're looking at. But what about NIMs? What sort of a guidance? Given that you're saying it's it's more or less stable, so maybe 100 basis points here and there. But what should be the broad range?
I think our broad range remains close to about 12% or so. So it remains in that range,
All right, Mr. Singh, we leave it at that for now. Thanks very much for joining in. We'll, of course, touch base with you once the earnings start coming through. So that's the management of Satin Creditcare. Importantly, promoter pledge has been coming down, and it now stands at under 30%, I think 28% and they expect a loan growth going forward in FY20 of about 35 to 40%. Stock, of course, near the highs of the day. A quick break, but when we come back,